Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello if you're new. So today's video is going to be a review of Dead to Me Season 2, which will be dropping on Netflix on the 8th of May. Feel free to comment down below your thoughts on my commentary. I'm always up for a little chat, I'm always up for a debate. And if you like this video, give it a like, and if you didn't like it, give it a dislike. No hard feelings. So let's get into the review now. I actually binge watched season 1 and 2 yesterday all in one go. And in terms of what I thought of season 1, I really enjoyed season 1. I thought it was really entertaining. I think it's a pretty solid kind of comedy-ish series. So obviously last season we left on quite a cliffhanger. So Jen now knows the truth about the fate of her husband. But obviously what was quite interesting is that she seemed to blame Steve. Still kind of blames Judy, but she seemed to blame Steve more than Judy. And obviously there was an altercation with Steve when Steve came looking for Judy after Judy ratted him out to the police for money laundering. And he ended up dead, and Jen gives Judy a call to help her out. And in terms of the main storyline of season 2, it largely centers around the cover-up of Steve's death. So obviously last season, the information that we have in terms of Steve's demise is that he and Jen were having a heated argument, but we don't see what led up to him actually being killed. And it definitely left us wondering, theorizing. And in terms of what I had thought after watching season 1, I thought it was a thing where Steve had attacked Jen, or had tried to attack Jen, and Jen had shot him and killed him in self-defense. But do let me know what your theory was surrounding Steve's death at the end of season 1. Entering the first episode, things are already looking suspicious surrounding Steve's death. Jen is looking very suspicious, and in terms of how this whole death cover-up storyline pans out, it's very similar to season 1. There's the lies, there's the deception, there's the eventual reveal, there's the guilt. Police are sniffing around, and the stakes are even higher now because the FBI have been looking for Steve. But in terms of that whole storyline, I think it was a pretty decent storyline for this season. I particularly enjoyed Jen and seeing how stressed out she was about this whole situation and being caught out, and the implications it could have for her and her family, and how intense those feelings were for her. Because I think in season 1, in terms of with Judy, her intensity was more on this kind of nervous level, this nervousness of being caught out, this nervousness of revealing this information. And I really like the contrast from season 1 and season 2. And I think the reason why Jen is obviously more scared, and I think it definitely makes sense that Jen is more scared about being caught out rather than nervous, because Jen obviously has a lot more to lose. In terms of Judy, she really just had herself, while Judy has, you know, her sons to think about. And there's some pretty intense moments there in terms of, you know, the danger of them, or the teasing of them being found out. Certain neighbours could lead to their downfall. Obviously the police is on their back. Then we have a new character that comes in and spices things up, and of course having to keep up appearances, trying to act normal and non-suspicious, which we all know is very hard for Judy. So we definitely have fun with that storyline. It is pretty predictable for the most part, but I think obviously going off season 1, I think we can all expect that. And I think what's also interesting is they kind of create this narrative of, you know, even once we have all of the information, they create this narrative of Jen doesn't deserve to go to prison for causing Steve's death. And, you know, maybe not directly, but kind of indirectly kind of making an argument that Steve maybe deserved it, or perhaps it isn't so much of a loss him being dead. So question time. My question for those of you who have watched it, and I think possibly people who haven't watched it could possibly answer it. Do you think he deserved to die? Do you think his death was karma? And do you feel like his death deserves to be brought to justice? Should Jen be punished to the full extent of the law? What do you guys think? In terms of what I think it's a very sticky one, because, you know, I do like Jen's character, but I do think but I do think she took some liberties, and I don't think Steve's death was entirely justifiable. Even in season 1, I was just kind of like, how did it escalate there? But then at the same time, in these fictional kind of comedy drama realms, you can't help but root for that character and want them to evade justice. But at the same time, I can't necessarily, obviously Steve had some trashy aspects about him, but I do feel like he was still a likable character, and I'm not sure if he deserved death. I'm not sure if he deserved that. And at the same time, you know, a crime is a crime. So, in essence, the person who commits the crime should be punished. But at the same time, I'm kind of just like, do I want Jen to go to prison? I'm not sure if I do. So, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm torn, guys. I don't know if... I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking you guys. What do you guys think? Because I'm on the fence with these types of shows. You know, the protagonist usually gets away with it. We're left on a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of this season in terms of where this investigation is going to go. So we're going to see this investigation and the drama surrounding that continue next season. The one aspect that I didn't enjoy with this whole storyline is that there was one incident near the end with Jen, and there was this very intense moment, and we think something big and juicy is going to happen, because typically with these type of shows, because with these kind of comedy dramas, I find that they're often very safe when it comes to endangering the characters. And there was this, I thought we were finally going to get a moment that kind of breaks that stereotype, and we were definitely baited, and then we think something's going to happen, and then suddenly narrative suddenly changes course and things become safe again. And that particular incident that happened, I'm speaking in code here because this is like a non-spoiler review, but for those of you who watched it, I think you know what part I'm talking about. That part at the end with Jen and a certain character, for me the result of that interaction with that character did not make sense, and it kind of felt very anticlimactic to me. It was kind of just like, are things really going to be that easy for them? I would have liked another route to go down, drama-wise, narrative-wise, and that was my only pet peeve with the narrative for this episode. And I think that whole incident that I'm talking about could be received in different ways. For those of you who have watched it and have grasped what incident I'm talking about, do you feel like you were relieved that it didn't go a certain way, or were you kind of frustrated? Did you feel a bit baited? Did you think if it did go that way, it would have made things a bit more interesting? Let me know what you think. And of course, as you may have predicted, we do see a reconciliation with Judy and Jen, and in this season we do see them still working on their friendship, patching up their friendship. But I think the nature of their friendship is very predictable this season. We all knew they were going to become friends again. But what I think is quite interesting is that Judy still feels like she has something to prove to Jen, still has this kind of complex where she feels like she still is indebted to Jen, even after Stephen's death. And I think a lot of people might think, well, after Steve's death, surely they should be even now, because, you know, a man for a man. And there is a few times where I'm thinking, why is Judy doing so much for Jen? Considering the situation that they're in, I kind of feel like Judy has already done enough. And I kind of felt like Jen was taking advantage of Judy, actually, because it's very clear that Judy has this complex, you know, she wants attention, she wants people to love her. And I think at times Jen takes advantage of that for this season. So I love them as a duo, but I'm not sure if I can completely stan this friendship because of the power dynamics that are going on. And I think the power dynamics between them are very interesting. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys who've watched season 2. What do you make of Jen and Judy's friendship? Do you feel like it is a genuine friendship, or do you feel like there is a bit of a power dynamic here. Perhaps Jen is benefiting more from this relationship than Judy is. I'd be interested to know what you think. Also see some romance development for both Jen and Judy with separate people, which I enjoyed. I think it was definitely nice to see Judy have a relationship outside of Jen. And we also see Judy connect with her mother. I'm not going to lie, that was one of the storylines where I kind of felt like it was a bit of a throw-in. It was very glossed over. I think perhaps that whole storyline was put in there to, create some sort of backstory for Judy as to why she is the way that she is, why she's so clingy, why she is, so loving and trusting and, easily taken advantage of. Personally, I didn't see much value in that little storyline that they had there. We also see a bit more of development with the kids than we saw last season. So we see a bit more of Charlie, a little bit more of Henry, but I'd say more of Charlie than we do of Henry. I found Charlie really annoying season 1, and season 2 I still find him annoying. I feel like they tried to make him a bit more likable this season, but his character is just annoying, and I'd rather just see less of him, to be honest. I don't necessarily think it's the actor's fault. I think it's an afterthought. Oh, she has this teenage kid, we have to write him back in again. I think if they are going to continue, if next season they want to put more of him in it, they're definitely going to have to work on this narrative, because the character is not the best written teenager in my opinion. So yeah, definitely still need more development, have more development with the kids, Henry as well. We see a bit more of him, but again, it's kind of just fleeting. So yeah, we still need more work on the kids. The flashbacks are back this season. This time it's for Jen. I absolutely hate flashbacks as a way of depicting trauma. I think they're cheap and I think they're a cop-out, and I'm disappointed that they brought them back this season. I just think that there are better and more sophisticated ways to show trauma rather than flashbacks. And what's interesting is that Judy's flashbacks have disappeared. She's no longer having flashbacks of the accident, which I thought was very interesting, and again just shows how lazy this flashback is, because they didn't even bother to continue it with Judy, and that was just another pet peeve of mine for the season. In terms of the characters, the cast was pretty much as good as it was last season. The singing for the choir has definitely gotten better this season. They definitely had a bit more rehearsal, a bit more refinement, because last season the choir was sounding horrible. So yeah, kudos to whoever improved the choir. Obviously Christina Applegate, who plays Jen, and Linda Cardinelli, who plays Judy, were as good as they were last season. They have, they're a great duo, they have great chemistry together. But I think Jen's performance definitely stood out a bit more than Judy this season. We see a lot of great emotional moments with regards to her anxiety about being caught. So another season of a good solid job from the pair of them. For those of you James Marsden's fans, James Marsden is actually back this season, and he's coincidentally playing Steve's twin brother Ben, which of course causes some havoc for Jen and Judy when he comes around asking questions and starts getting close with Jen. And when he arrives, I was instantly suspicious of him, but he kind of plays this kind of good twin role, which he kind of keeps up. But I don't know, I'm still suspicious. For those of you who watched the season, what do you think of Ben? Do you feel like he's a genuine nice twin, or are you suspicious of him? And Nick is also back this season as well. I loved him on last season and I loved him this season as well. He's kind of still playing that bit X role that hates Judy, but yeah, I was happy to have him back this season. Overall, I was satisfied with the narrative of this season. It was very similar to season 1. I did prefer the narrative for season 1, but it's a solid narrative for season 2. But what I will say is the way that they have left off this season, I'm not sure if I'm particularly looking forward to season 3. I think the direction what I think that they're going in, I think the show could be perhaps at risk of flatlining. It's kind of giving me vibes of the end is coming. I feel like, season 1 was solid. This one was solid, but not as good as season 1. And I think perhaps that could continue. and I think perhaps the direction that they're going in, I'm thinking next season could be perhaps the beginning of the end, or for me personally it feels like they should start wrapping up this story, because I'm not sure what else they could possibly do to keep up an engaging storyline. What do you guys think? Do you feel like, could you see it having a few more seasons, or do you feel like perhaps maybe they should start wrapping it up? I think I'll definitely wait for season 3 to make my definitive judgment, but I feel like that's the vibes that I'm getting. But yeah, the ending was a bit of a weird one. I'm not really sure what to make of the ending. Something big happened, but I'm not sure how significant it's meant to be, considering the fact that in contrast to the ending of season 1, it doesn't really seem that serious. It still was a serious incident, but it doesn't really seem as serious. So I'm not really sure what they're going to take from that situation and bring it to season 3. The most I can think of is perhaps maybe some sort of leverage or blackmail that could help them in terms of getting the scent off of them. But like I said, I'm not sure if anything that can be gathered from that situation is going to... Let me know what you thought about the ending and what significance it could have in the next season. In terms of next season, I guess we'll have to see the investigation play out. Probably going to get a conclusion to the investigation, but I don't think anything serious will happen to either Jen or Judy. I highly doubt it. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like they are setting us up? But what do you guys think? Because obviously next season the investigation could completely change. They could switch things up, they could spice things up. But yeah, for those of you who watched it, do you think anything serious will come of this investigation next season? Let me know what you guys think. I think overall production was solid, you know, editing was good, cinematography was decent, back and track and the score was okay, and the pacing was pretty good. It's a pretty easy season to get through, just as easy as it was last season. It was enjoyable. There's some serious drama, there's some laughs here and there, pretty much the same tone as it was last season. In terms of comparisons, I think I did prefer season 1 to season 2. I still think season 2 is good, but I did prefer season 1. I do feel like season 2 is almost like a repeat of season 1, but they switched it up a bit. There's a little bit of cheating going on. Would have preferred maybe a different direction for season 2, but like I said, I still enjoyed it. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys. Which season did you prefer, this season or last season? So I think taking everything into account, I'm going to give it a solid 3 out of 5. If you haven't watched it yet, do let me know if this is something that you were excited about season 2, and if you have watched it, do let me know what you thought of this season and what you would rate it out of 5. Of course, let me know what you thought of my review. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to press that notification bell so you know when the next review is dropping. Till next time guys, bye.